Welcome. I mentioned in my last video I was going to talk about some old ticket stubs, and I also, throughout the course of going to concerts, those of you that went to concerts in maybe the 90s and even the 2000s, they would put out these huge newspapers. They were like music publications, but they were free. Like if you went to like a big city like Chicago or even some mid-sized cities, they would have this big newspaper that they would put out letting you know like all of these shows that were coming, and I always collected those, and that's pre-internet. That's how you knew about what concerts were coming, or if you heard some advertisement on the radio. But a lot of times the music I liked wasn't advertised on the radio, so I had to dig through these periodicals. I would also look in sometimes the metal magazines would talk about tours. So some of the ticket stubs I'll talk about, you'll see cutouts and stuff, and I'll let you know what those are. But today we're in the years 1994 and 1995. We'll start here on this page. This is, and don't judge me by the way, but this was fucking 20-some years ago, but still am a fan of the first two Stone Temple Pilots albums. This here is a newspaper cutout. Two here from the local paper. This is my ticket stub up here. So Stone Temple Pilots played in the Illinois State Fair. This was August 16th of 1994. This show sold out instantly. I remember I was working as a cook, and a guy that we knew at work called in sick to go stand in line for tickets, and our boss found out and said, if you don't give me one of those tickets, you're fired. So my boss got a ticket, and the show had sold out. But those of you that don't know, a lot of times the day of concerts will release tickets to sold out shows. The bands always get their own copies, own tickets to give the family members, special fans, whatnot. And that's true for every show. And I apologize to keep drinking water, but the weather here is brutal right now. So I went to the state fair this day, and I stood in line. There were about 15 people in front of me, and I got up to the window, and the lady said, "I'm sorry, we just sold out." She said, "But don't go anywhere because we have a lot of handicap seats, and we haven't sold any of those yet. And the show is going to start in I think an hour or two, so they had to go get special permission to release some of these seats." Came back to the window about 20 minutes later, and she said, "Hey, we've got some seats left. If you want any of these, you're going to have to stand." So it's kind of like standing room only. We're like, "Yep, I'll take them." I think I needed 8 tickets. I had 8 people with me. They all went and got corn dogs and shit while I stood in line. We got into the show. If you've ever been to a state fair, a lot of state fairs have like a big grandstand type area, and then there'll be like a track where they usually have a stage. The track's usually for like demolition derbies and shit like that. They have those horse races. I can't remember what they're called. But when I went to this show, there was just a chain link fence between the grandstand, some seats, the track, which is where the pit was for Stone Temple Pilots. So my friends and I, we didn't really have seats. We were in the standing room all there, and we just started walking around, and I would look down, and I said, "Well, there's a hole in the chain link fence." I don't know if it had been there previously or if someone from this show had cut it open, but there was a lady standing there, and I said, "Are you with security?" And she was like, "No, I'm just I think my grandson's up there somewhere." So I just ducked under, or me and my friends ducked under, got into the pit, and we were 4 rows back from Stone Temple Pilots. They put on a great show. I heard rumors that they were kind of feuding right now. I think their popularity blew up when Sex Type Thing came out, but their second album, Purple, is a masterpiece from start to finish. It's a shame it doesn't get more attention. The Jawbox opened. I didn't know much about them. And again, all this was pre-internet, so what I knew about music was from these publications I talked about. And then the Butthole Surfers, no, it wasn't the Butthole Surfers, I don't think. Oh, bear with me, my memory is going on. Meat Puppets, God, not the Butthole Surfers. And they had that song, Backwater, really cheesy song that wasn't like any of the other stuff, but it was played on fucking, your local rock station. It probably still is. That was the only song I knew, but they put on a good show as well. So, yeah, it was a great show. The next show had 2 shows back to back coming up, very, very different. This one here, you'll notice, is Corrosion of Conformity at the Double Door. That's in Chicago. This was a last minute deal. This was around, I think it was the release party for Deliverance. I was a huge fan of Blind. That came out before that. Deliverance, when I first heard it, I fucking hated. If you were a fan of Blind and I put on Deliverance for you, if you weren't a metal fan and didn't know any better, you would swear these were not the same bands. But the Double Door, super small place in Chicago, almost like a bar. I pulled up I was out of town, went to pick up my buddy at work, and he said, hey, he kind of yelled, you want to go see COC? And I couldn't understand what the fuck he was saying, and I was like, what? He goes, COC's playing at the Double Door in Chicago tonight. We can go get our tickets, I think at Bergner's. Those of you my age remember you could go to Bergner's and get tickets for Ticketmaster shows. Got our tickets when he got off work. I don't even think he took a shower. We drove straight up to Chicago, went to the Double Door, saw Corrosion Conformity. They were 2 feet from me, playing a show. It was when Mike Dean had got back together with the band. It was just a great time. They played a lot of the songs I liked. Some of the Deliverance stuff came across a lot heavier in person, so I didn't give that album another chance though until much later in life, and now it's one of my favorite albums. So that was a great time. This last one, complete departure here, but Billy Joel. He played in Champaign, Illinois. I'm a big fan of early Billy Joel stuff. And the person I was dating at the time, her roommate was infatuated with Billy Joel, so I went to the show. It was a good concert. What I remember, he has the song about war. I can't remember which war. I think Vietnam War. The chorus is like, we all go down together, something like that. He brought up a bunch of Vietnam vets to sing on that song, the chorus, and they all put their arms around together and sang that chorus with them. So it was very emotional rendition of that song. I don't know if he does that every show or not, but you could see some of the guys crying while they were singing the song. It was pretty powerful. So I had a lot of respect for Billy Joel. A lot of you probably know he dated Christy Brinkley, and he wrote a lot of the songs on An Innocent Man were about her. And at the time, they were divorced. But he refused to play those songs live. Uptown Girl, Tell Her About It. A lot of his huge hits were about her, and he would not perform them live. So that was kind of a letdown for me. Next up, we're going to get into more of the end of 1994. Right up here, we got 9 Inch Nails. They played at the University of Illinois Assembly Hall in Champaign. This is when, how can I not, the Downward Spiral. I almost forgot the name of that fucking album. Downward Spiral, it came out, 9 Inch Nails were fucking exploding. The Jim Rose Side Circus opened. That was an experience in itself. You can go probably YouTube that. And then Marilyn Manson opened, and they had their that song "Get Your Gun" was out. They weren't really that popular yet, but they were certainly well on their way. 9 Inch Nails put on an awesome show. It's probably up there in my top 10 live experiences. They had this huge backdrop with all kinds of weird shit in the background while they were playing. And the U of I a lot of the people working at the U of I were elderly people that are for like ushers and stuff. And they actually had seats on the floor. And I remember when I got to the show, I'm like, I don't know why they did that, because within a matter of minutes, those seats are going to be either demolished or thrown or something like that. I don't think the people at a lot of the universities, they don't really know what they're booking when they book a band like Nine Inch Nails. Sure enough, when the lights went out, the people, if you've never been to the assembly hall, it's like a round amphitheater type thing, but it's indoors. It looks like a weird spaceship. So you have all these seats that go down to the floor. The floor is not very big. And people just flocked out of their seats to try to get to the pit, which was, I think the seats there were maybe 100, 200 seats down there. And the number of people that ended up in that pit more than doubled by the time the show was over. People flocked down there. The ushers were trying to stop them. And these poor old ladies, they finally just said, fuck it, just go. The chairs started getting pushed to the side. Some were being thrown, but pretty much everybody that was in that pit just said, hey, fuck these chairs. Let's get them out of the way. And the usher spent half the time stacking the chairs up and getting them out of the way because they didn't want people throwing them. But great show from start to finish there. Next up, I forgot. This was in that was in 94, right? Okay. Next up was, these are a little bit out of order when I create this right here. You'll see the newspaper and the ticket here, Danzig, with Typo Negative and Godflesh. This particular cutout was from one of those magazines I talked about, these publications, where I would cut that out, and then I would, of course, get my ticket. I was, at this time, experimenting with a lot of different kinds of music, and this was a bill that I was excited about because, to me, Danzig, Typo Negative, and Godflesh are all very different, but they were all on the same bill. The ticket stub says Aragon Ballroom, but this show actually, I think a week or two before, got moved to, it was either I think it was the Riviera. So if you've never been to Chicago, the Riviera is like catty corner kind of from the Aragon Ballroom, but it's much smaller, I believe. And they changed the start time, so we got there just in time to see Godflesh. The people I was with were not into Godflesh at all. They wanted to drink beer, and I started hearing those electric drums starting. I'm like, guys, sorry, but I gotta go check out Godflesh. Justin Broderick is in Godflesh. I believe he had a lot of anxiety with flying and stuff. At least that's what I've heard in the past. He's had to cancel tours and stuff coming to the United States. So I was happy that I got to witness Godflesh live. Typo Negative, I think this was the first time I saw Typo Negative. If I remember correctly, yeah, it was the first time I had seen Typo Negative. I believe Bloody Kisses had just come out, so they were on their rise to being headliners. They put on an awesome show. Everything on the stage was kind of green. If you know their themes of their album covers and whatnot are green. And then Danzig came out and played all the hits. I think by that time Danzig 4 maybe had been out. Twisted Cane was already popular. Mother was all over the fucking radio. So yeah, that was that show. Great times, for sure. Last two shows I'm going to talk about today because my throat's giving out. The first one we'll talk about, well, I'll try to do them in order, I guess. We're going to end on a low note, unfortunately, but that's okay. This stub right here, Pantera, and this over here is the advertisement for that show. Pantera with Typo Negative at the David Palmer Civic Center in Danville, Illinois. Danville, Illinois is over kind of close onto the Indiana border. It's a complete shithole. I was born there 47 years ago. Not a huge fan of that place, but a lot of family grew up in the Danville, Westville, Georgetown area. My grandparents lived there, so a lot of good memories, but when I go back there now, if I have to for whatever reason. It's just a very depressed area. Unfortunately, I do still have some family there, but just not a great area. But they used to get some good concerts. I remember Anthrax played there at one time. Guns N' Roses played there. Allegedly, at one time, I think it was either Westville or Danville per capita had more bars per capita than any other place in the country. And allegedly, Guns N' Roses, right when Appetite for Destruction was starting to pick up steam, they kind of went out and just got blasted at various bars in Danville. I don't know if that's true or not, but Pantera. This was on the Far Beyond Driven tour. I believe was this my first time seeing Pantera? I can't remember. They were just firing on all cylinders on this tour. Far Beyond Driven is a great album. Even if you don't like Pantera, I know their first album gets the most praise, but Far Beyond Driven holds a special place for me. Again, it's going to be a Desert Island video one of these days from start to finish. It's great. Good Friends and a Bottle of Pills is not really a great song, but the rest of it is great. And again, I got to see Typo Negative again. They put on a great show, as always. A buddy that I met up with at the show had taken acid, and someone was stage diving and kicked him in the head. He got knocked out. Security had to take him back to get looked at, and they kept saying, "What's he on? What's he on?" At the time, I didn't know he was on acid, so I'm like, "Hey, I don't know what he's on." And they're like, "You got to tell us. You got to tell us, because if we give him something to some medication, we need to know if it's going to interact with what he's on." I'm like, I don't know. Didn't see him the rest of the night. I have no idea how the fuck he got back home, which was about 2 hours away. No fucking clue how he made it home. He saw him a few weeks later, and he said it's all kind of a blur to him. So how he got home, I don't know. Good times, though. Last but certainly least, probably on this list, down here, The Offspring. This was a show at the Illinois State Fair again, but this was not. Hey, Mikey's down here. Say hello to Metal Mikey. It was not at the grandstand, so this was a show on the fairgrounds in this weird building. I think it's maybe one of the 4-H buildings where they have cows and pigs and stuff like that, shit like that. And then I mainly went because the Vandals opened for The Offspring. I had just discovered the Vandals. Was a huge fan of what I was able to get my hands on before the show. Again, keep in mind, pre-internet, living in the middle of nowhere, your local record stores are just going to have Vandals records laying around. But The Offspring were very popular. They had the Come Out and Play song at the time. They were being played all over rock radio. So I got the tickets. The Vandals were crazy live. They were jumping all over the place into the crowd, running around into the crowd. The Offspring was kind of boring to me, from what I remember, but overall it's a good time. But the Vandals blew The Offspring off the stage, and if you go, we'll try to find video of all these shows and link them below. But if not, I'll link to some of the Vandal stuff, and you can see how crazy they really are. So that's it, guys, for this edition of my channel, mostly metal, talking about old ticket stubs. It's nice to go through these and just talk about them while I can remember who opened for who. It's good to kind of document it too. I don't have any of it written down, so I'm trying to go off memory. So I hope you're enjoying these as much as I am. I enjoy talking about this stuff quite a bit. If you have your ticket stubs and happen to talk about them on the line or anything, do let me know down in the comments. But I have 2 books full of ticket stub things. This is one of them. So there's going to be plenty more of these to come. Obviously, not really going to live shows right now, but as I do, I try to keep everything and talk about them, so I'll be documenting them all. You can kind of see my musical journey along the way. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.